Good morning, Peter. My name is Rita El-Mounayer, and I'm the CEO of SAT-7. I've been in this position for 4 years now. Took the CEO role in 2019. I'm Lebanese, born in a Christian family. We were very conservative as Christians, but we didn't go to church, or maybe a lot of times we didn't practice faith. But at the age of 15, I started going to church due to a friend of mine who invited me to a youth group at church, and I started going there. And after maybe 6 months, I just prayed and invited Jesus to come into my life. But prior to that, and this is very important to mention, being a Lebanese and born in a Christian family there, I was born during the war. And there were a lot of conflicts back then. It was the 70s. We had a lot of conflicts with the Palestinians, and then Christian Muslims, and then Israel. So I was in that home where my dad was so much involved in the war. He was part of the Christian militia. And my mom was very, very sick, and she passed away during the war in Lebanon. It's not because of the war, it's the aftermath of not having infrastructure in Lebanon, so no hospitals. So she passed away I was 7 years old, my sister was 5. This played a big role in my life as a Christian, because I had big questions since I was a child. Why I should be born in a country of war? Why I have to lose my mother at the age of 7? Why my dad was very much involved in the Christian militia? He goes every day to war, and I will never know if he comes back. And this made me resent God a little bit, or maybe have big questions that I thought nobody can answer, not even God. But my dad those times played a big role in my life, in my life as a future media person, as a CEO today. He made us, my sister and I, love television. How? We're a lot of times in the bunkers, nothing to do. It's a lot of times very dangerous to go outside and play. And my dad will bring us a TV set. It was black and white. And he will hook it to a car battery because we don't have electricity. And he will let us watch television, sometimes non-stop, to be distracted from the outside world and be immersed in a world that is maybe fake, but it's a kind of refuge. So not to think about what's happening outside our doors, outside our bunkers, outside of the safest room in the house where we're hiding. And whenever the bombs are loud, my dad will come and turn the volume up, so we will not, hear what's happening outside. And after many years, I became a Christian, my sister became a Christian, and we wanted to use media in order to give children that lived like we lived the same experience, but with the hope of Christ, but with the purpose. It's not just like filling your void with programs and television, but also filling your heart with the love of Christ. So this is the first thing that Dad, gave me. The second thing is, a lot of times when the bombs are heavy and we're very scared, and a lot of glasses around us, because of the impact of bombs around us, my dad will come and cover us with his body. So if something happens, it happens to him, and we are safe. And this picture of Dad trying to protect us, trying to be there with us in this horrific experience, trying to ease our pain and fear, gave me the picture of God. Later on, gave me the real picture of God the Father, whom, even though He doesn't answer a lot of our questions, but He's there. So when I became a Christian, this is the irony. I hear the pastor saying, became a committed Christian. I hear the pastor saying that when you become a Christian, you give your life to Jesus, all your fears will go away, your questions will be answered, and you will live in joy. And it was not my experience. I still have the fear, and I still have, until today, after many years, a lot of questions that are not answered. But I know that I'm not alone. I know when I'm down, God is down with me. When I'm up, He is up with me. When I'm facing tragedies and traumas and dramas and fears and success, He is there also to be with me, to help me, and to celebrate with me. And this is the legacy of my dad in my life. This is why I really feel so blessed, even though that I went through a war and a lot of uncertainties, that God has blessed me with a wonderful dad that gave me the passion to serve today in SAT-7, and I will explain in a moment what is SAT-7, and also made me sense and feel and taste the love of God through His behavior with us when we were kids.
As a young girl, besides your father, what other influences helped you to grow as a Christian? Was there much church going on at the time?
It was church, going to church. School were on and off in my childhood, like sometimes we celebrate they were not going to school. But it was church. It's a church, it's the community of Christian believers who are living the same way as we live, under the bombs and siege and maybe displacement within the country. But they still pray, for us, being there for us, help us, and give us the hope that only He can give. Because when I looked around those days, and even when I look around a lot of times these days, I could see that the biggest problem is hopelessness in our region. When I was a kid, we were poor. Maybe we didn't have enough to eat, or we didn't have nice clothes, or we didn't have like a proper shoes, etc., etc. But I didn't care. I think what I care about is somebody to pat me on the shoulder, give me a hug, and tell me everything is gonna be okay. And I think this is what SAT-7 is doing today. Is we're there with you. We are in the region. We are living the pain, the turmoil, the tragedies, the wars, the insecurities, but we're here for you. We pray for you. We're giving you the hope that nobody can give but Him. And this is our role as media, Christian media in the region.
What were the early days like establishing this TV ministry, SAT-7?
It was a long journey for me because SAT-7, let me explain what SAT-7 is first. SAT-7 is a Christian satellite television for the people in the Middle East, by the people of the Middle East. We cover more than 23 countries plus Iran, I think 23 or 22, I'm not sure, plus Iran, Afghanistan, and Turkey. We broadcast in 3 languages, Arabic, Farsi, and Turkish, and we have 4 channels, 2 in Arabic. One of these Arabic channels for children, 24 hours, like 7 days a week for children, just broadcasting God's love to them, and one, Arabic for the family, and then we have a Turkish channel in Turkish, and then we have a Farsi channel in Farsi, Persian channel in Farsi. And 3-4 years ago, we started building our social media platforms. So we were like the first to launch our first on-demand Christian app in 3 languages, Arabic, Farsi, and Turkish. And also we're really producing heavy materials for social media. So in the early days, when we started, we were 2 hours a week in Arabic. And we called ourselves a channel, I don't know how, but we were 2 hours a week, and I was in those 2 hours as a producer and a screen talent for children programming. So I was writing my materials and broadcasting for children in the region. While I was doing that, I was full-time with FIBA Radio because I studied media. So I was doing FIBA Radio, but just part-time doing this 15 minutes children program on SAT-7, like once a week. I remember we didn't have a studio. We were renting a studio outside Beirut, Lebanon. And we didn't have a team, so we were hiring a team from outside. And at the end, we had our small studio, and we hired a cameraman, but we didn't have a camera. So it was really interesting how, over the years, I personally witnessed the growth of SAT-7 and seeing many people coming on board and trying to make a difference in the region. So from 2 hours a week in Arabic, we developed to be 2 hours a day, and then 24 hours 7, and then launching the Persian channel, SAT-7 Pars, and then SAT-7 Kids. Pars was 2006, SAT-7 Kids 2007, I think SAT-7 Turk 2013, while we were doing some Turkish program. So over the years, 27 years, 28 years, because I was there from the beginning, I could see how God used the people in the region to broadcast something that you don't see or hear on other television stations. And I could see how God worked, not just in the hearts of people watching, but in our hearts as well. So we were changed, we were transformed, because we could see that this pain as Middle Eastern that we have lived through for many years now is used to tell people in the region, hey, I am like you. I went through a lot like you, but hey, there is still a hope. There is still His forgiveness. There is still His reconciliation. There is still love. And this love is from Him to everyone. So it's been a great journey, and I'm now, as a CEO, I anticipate more and more with the role of social media, reaching the young generation, seeing the team around me with like younger than me. Now I have like white hair. It's been a blessing to see like people on board and want to use the past agony, hardship, to make a better future.
It must have broken your heart when you saw this terrible explosion in Beirut. How did SAT-7 respond?
Oh, Peter, yes, it broke my heart. I was in Cyprus. I was entering a building where, like I had a friend, I'm visiting, and the whole building shook in Cyprus. So I was thinking, the first thing that came to my mind, because Cyprus is divided into Turkish and Greek, the first thing came to my mind, okay, is there a war between like Turkey and Greece now? Is something happening? I went to the apartment of my friend and I started receiving the videos of the blast. I couldn't move. The whole memories of the war, the whole fear of thinking, is my family safe or not, because I have family members in Lebanon, came back to me in a split of a second. And it was really dramatic, living all these memories. But I feel like so blessed to have a team in SAT-7 that they were determined not just to address the agony and the fear and the disappointment of people in Lebanon, but also went on the ground trying to give water to people, especially children. I mean, there were children like going into like where the blast took place, giving water, like just chocolate, trying to make breakfast with other people on the ground, like NGOs and ministries, just to help like the people there. It is really this what happened is, I don't know, I cannot describe it, but it affected, like people's life in the region. The people my age, they were determined from that day not to stay. This is the first time I hear some Lebanese saying, we're not gonna stay. And the church was very much involved, but you can tell for some time the church was a little bit helpless. Not hopeless, but helpless. Like, what can we do now? People are leaving, people are immigrating, people lost all hope with government, and etc., etc. Until today, you're interviewing me, we don't have a president, and our economy is really, really bad. I'll give you an example. 2 years ago, the $1 on the Lebanese pound was 1,500 Lebanese lira. Today is 120,000 Lebanese lira on $1. So I don't know how people are managing, what we can do, but the church is active. They're trying to help. And also we're trying, like all the time, and I know it's not a cliche, people hear this, yeah, prayer. No, I really believe in the power of prayer. And I could see that people with this prayer movement in the region, that we want to pray for the region, we want to pray for the region, it's making a difference to give like a little bit, a glimpse of hope to people who are hopeless.
I'd like to move on to Afghanistan, if that's okay.
Sure.
I heard amazing stories of people in Afghanistan who were Christians. They would maybe have an hour a day to charge their phone, and the first thing they did was they contacted SAT-7. What can you tell us about what's happening there today?
Well, it's amazing, the response from people in Afghanistan, and this made us last year to launch on Instagram a program called My Church in Afghanistan. It's like Church in Afghanistan is a program that just strengthens the believers who are there. They contact us. They tell us, you can tell from a lot of messages, like asking us if there is hope for us. Do you think that there is a hope for this country? But a lot of times they say, we are following you as a part of our church at home. So we pray with you, you strengthen us. We are now, like having the strength to continue. It's because of you and what you broadcast in Dari and Tajik, of course in Farsi, but Dari and Tajik, aiming for the people in Afghanistan. And one person wrote to us and say, I pray one day that all this stress and oppression in Afghanistan will be lifted. This is my prayer, and all the people in this church at home, praying. And I will personally build a church and invite people just to worship together and thank God, like for His provision, to us, even though we are in distress. So we are producing, like programs for Afghanistan, trying, like to address the women's, like issues in Afghanistan, which is, I think, common also now in Iran, but maybe with the plus of non-education for women, like in Afghanistan. We're trying to reach children because we believe that the future lays in the hands of this young generation. 60% of the whole Middle East and North Africa, Afghanistan and Iran and Turkey and the Arab world is under the age of 30. And we are trying, and this is one of our goals in the future, is to invest in people's life while they are still young. In Afghanistan, Tajik and Dari, in Iran, Farsi, in the Arab world, and in Turkey.
I could talk with you for hours about the stories, but looking back on your life, how does it feel, having grown up in such challenging times, that God is using you today to help people in your region?
I'm still amazed. I cannot believe that God can use broken people like myself. A lot of times, like our age, a lot of people say, life goes like a split of a second. I don't feel it this way. I feel like I lived a long life. Seeing death in front of me and war, people suffering, visiting the region, went to Morocco, Tunisia, Algeria. I pray I will go to Iran one day. And seeing how people are resilient in a way or another. And I don't know if the resilience comes from Him or it's a human nature, but I could tell that people, even though that it's just disasters around, but a lot of people, especially the church, is not giving up. And I could see people on their knees almost every day praying for the region. And this makes me, even though I'm not diluting the situation is not great, but this gives me the strength to go on. A lot of people ask me, so, your stamina. So like my stamina is because of the feedback we receive from viewers. When God is using you and you had a life that was not perfect, you went through a lot, and using you still when you're broken and down, to make a difference in people's lives, this gives you the strength. You read stories, like coming to the SAT-7 parts from Iran, with all the oppression that's there, from Afghanistan, from, countries like Algeria, where they are closing all the churches, and the believers there were They close our churches, but they cannot close our hearts loving Jesus Christ. When you hear these stories and you see the result of Christian programming, prayers, the church, you know deep inside that there is hope.